Hello, fellow yoga teachers and students. I am making this video to first and foremost offer my sincere regret and apology that I wasn't there last week during the workshop. And I really wanted to still offer my energy and my own personal experience and whatever knowledge and wisdom I might have to you regarding restorative yoga. So, this is a little bit of what I would have offered in that class last week. So, I think the best place for us to start is just to settle in and take a moment, ground into what is restoring and what that word means to you. Receive a few breaths, draw your awareness closer to home base, wherever that might be in your body. You might close your eyes. And allow the senses to become fine-tuned to the rhythms, the sounds, the living system and expression of consciousness and love that your body is, that your emotional body is, that your organs are. Receiving some deep breaths into the belly, expanding your capacity to feel into tight corners or spaces that aren't usually expanded. Or maybe the back of your lungs as well, the lower back as you breathe in, the 360 of your torso expanding like a balloon. And once you feel kind of familiar with that inner space in this moment of time, I invite you to open your eyes and take a look around. And seeing with purely material eyes is quite different from seeing through eyes of compassion. So if there is a living thing, even an inanimate thing in your room that triggers a sense of compassion, I invite you to maybe take a moment and ground into that, lock in with it. And for me, and for all intents and purposes today, compassion can mean um, something that calls upon a deeper presence and inquiry. There's a sense of care built in. You might even look at your own body, a point on your body that you have seen many, many times with a certain decisive outlook. And can you see it in a new way? Maybe if it's a scar, it connects to a memory or a certain pattern that you see. Just noticing the things that are familiar and the ways we can also see things with fresh eyes. And then I invite you to, if you have a notebook, if you don't, go get one. You can pause it. But I would say write that down in your notebook, right? As like a point of inquiry. Where can I see with fresh eyes? So maybe we wake up and it's the same routine. How can I breathe spaciousness, a sense of compassion and care and inquiry into what I already believe that I know, right? When we decide a certain narrative over a reality, where is the room for growth there? Where is the space and the invitation for new information, being surprised, delight? So, one of my favorite analogies is when we restore something. I always love watching those videos of like furniture that was found on the curb with many old layers of paint, and then they just beautifully bring it back to life. And they restore it by stripping the paint off, by uncovering those layers of scuff marks and, rings from the cup, or again, layers of paint. And restoring is really bringing something back to its original essence. So in restorative yoga, it's very much a simplification. It's a space where we can peel back the layers of the week if it's a regular practice, which I would strongly encourage it to be amidst whatever other embodiment practices or yoga practices you have, so that there's a sense of purity and stillness that can be developed. Um, I I don't really know what I need until the crisis hits. Has anyone experienced that before? Right? Like we can go about our lives, everything's fine, and then all of a sudden something piles up and it becomes too much, or I'm triggered, and that is all of a sudden an insight into something I haven't really been paying attention or I've been actively ignoring. Um, so, restorative yoga, you can write this down or maybe close your eyes and meditate for to see how it feels and to invite in this practice as a proactive carving out of time, right? To build a relationship with conscious rest. Of course, we all sleep every night. We're kind of going down into those deep delta waves. The brain is off in a sense, or the different parts of our brain turn on, but we're not conscious in the way that we are when we're awake. So to take our part of our conscious day where we're aware, we're present with the task at hand, and to apply that to rest is a way of building into the nervous system the bandwidth and the capacity for accessing a state of spaciousness, of contact with the essence when we are moving through our day versus the story, the expectations of others, the pressure to uphold a certain image or, expectation from another. So it's the proactive carving out of time to build a relationship with conscious rest so that we are resourced when we need it most. It's not that I am free of problems, it's that now I can approach those problems from a place of connection versus scrambling or pattern, unconscious. I'm not connected to my own choice in the matter. In times of stress, struggle, uncertainty, what comes through? This really fun or not so fun exercise. When I'm stressed, when I'm uncertain, when I'm maybe struggling, is there a story that comes up? Oh, I don't deserve something good. I'm a bad person, or I'm alone in this, or nobody loves me, right? We go to those places when shit hits the fan. And that's very real, right? There's like storylines that we've been carrying for a very long time. And don't get me wrong, restorative yoga is not like the end all be all. It's not the therapy that's going to finally heal you, or it is, but it can be that real where we're like slowly, and it's a slow, gradual process. It's not an overnight fix. We're just gradually carving out space for ourselves to interface with all the things because the speed of our society right now is such that it's just a million swipes ago. But actually, that's like a really deeply important thing inside of me. And this week is so crazy, and I haven't had time to really look at it. But now all of a sudden, I've got a date with myself where I don't have to perform, I don't have to pretend, I don't have to, um, you know, hold back the truth because it's too much. It's a date with myself where I can come to the table and do some due diligence. All right, what do we got today? Oh, that thing is still there. Yeah, this week has been really tough. Or I keep thinking about that conversation I had 2 months ago. And it's not so much that I'm going to deal with it and we're going to get it done. It's not another achievement. It's a space for it to breathe and be seen. And that so often takes the charge out of whatever that thing is. So it's not unconsciously weighing and collecting and creating this subtle burden that we're constantly carrying with us. It's an opportunity also to admit where I need help. First, I know what it is I'm dealing with, and then I can ask for help. I can ask, delegate some things. Even if obviously I'm not like getting up and calling, oh, I've got to go call someone and get help with that thing. Sometimes it's cosmic help, right? Prayer, putting it up on the altar for God to take over. And there's a way of doing that if you belong to a spiritual lineage or a religion in a more formal way, right? Like prayer and but then there's a way to do it that's somatic and embodied. And I feel like the body is the bridge between our the ineffable essence of who we are and the connection that we have with all of creation, with nature, with the unseen realm. And so when we're interacting with the inner world and also physically supported, right? That nervous system is that subtle getting a little more gross in the body. We're able to kind of shift things so now the physical body is magnetizing. It's sending out like information through the magnetic radiant field of the heart. When the heart is pressured, emotionally shut down, there's a dullness to life. We've all been there. When I'm very much up here and strategizing and always thinking and in my head, which because of media and the information we're taking in, we're pushed up here to reactivity, to the sort of like limbic center of the uh, animal nature, the brain that is reactive because of survival versus proactive because of um, a deeply integrated self that knows my spiritual values, my bigger goals, and also that I'm connected to some energetic field that can set things in motion. So this is sort of like the esoteric base of restorative yoga that is very real, that is very much felt, right? How do we feel when we're in a conflict with someone? I'm like an animal cornered, right? It's like the pressure is on. I'm starting to like lose my patience, or I feel attacked. Whatever way, whatever unique way, we're each beautifully suited to become a little bit feral. That's beautiful. I love it. It's honest, it's real. But when we're wanting to sort of like stay connected, because that's like the big deficit in our world today, I would say, is being able to move through everything that's going on all the time, all at once, while staying connected. So I feel that restorative yoga gives me space to breathe and an ability to be present with the stuff that I'm carrying and see it and do that due diligence in a way that's safe, that's supported, that is um, there's no like pressure to deliver. It's simply a sorting of the inner world in a way that is consistent and that I can develop a little bit of like a habit with. So I'm not scrambling. So daily life is like a moving target, right? I'm constantly like adjusting. And there's a bit of like a treading. We're treading water. And so when we're consciously resting, there's like a sense of like, oh, there's a sanctuary within the treading, within the like having to recalibrate my expectations or my plan. So there's a polarity of energy that's at work, joy and pain. And this polarity comes with the energy of like attachment. I want things to be good. I want to feel good. I'm attached to a certain like outcome or the way, I have the holidays in mind and this partnership, I want it to go like this. So we're attached. And then the pain comes and it's like, oh, I don't want that. I'm averse to it. I want to push it away. I want to shut it down. And these two polarities can be like huge energy drains. It uses up a lot of psychic, emotional, and mental energy to control things and stay within that polarity of attachment and aversion. And the whole kind of key, the basis to yoga is inviting in observation, the neutral mind, conscious awareness that's like from the 30,000-foot view and saying, yes, wow, that's happening. I hear you. You feel like that. And it's very much like almost inner child work, right? If we've ever worked with children and they have like very strong reactions. I had this happen at an outreach the other day. This little boy was just like incredibly emotionally dysregulated. You could see it, right? And all he needed was someone to sit and see him and hold space for whatever it is he wanted to throw out and not be reactive. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. It's like, okay, jumping around, going crazy. Look at me. I see you. Running up to me while I'm in the middle of talking and saying, do you need a hug? And he was like ready to throw down, and be reactive because you could see there's so many adults trying to control his energy and scold him and say, no, that's bad. Stop that. No, wrong. Do that. And it's like this unconscious trigger is like fighting against and just constantly engaging with the trigger of like, look at me. I'm doing this thing. I want the attention, even if it's bad, and getting the reaction and the attention and then reacting against that, right? It's like the unending cycle. And how many times are we doing that inside our own selves? The cry for help, the little like the thing that we're constantly doing that maybe we shouldn't, the habit that like, oh, I gotta stop doing that. But at what level do we need to drop down so that we can first acknowledge the feeling underneath the thing? And ultimately, it's just like compassionate witness. That's all we all need. It's like, I see you. In that expansiveness in the nervous system to hold whatever those feelings are to be seen is what we're developing with restorative yoga. So it's a neutral space. There's so much polarity in the world. Go, 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 go. Pleasure, 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 right? Like work hard, party hard. And it's not fun or exciting or sexy to be like, witness with love. It's sort of like, all right, I'll do that when I'm like 80. It's a retirement energy. That's what it is. We're retiring from the exhausting dance of attachment and aversion so we can witness with love or witness with understanding. It doesn't even have to be love. Maybe there's something that came up that I'm really upset about. I'm not gonna, I don't have space. It doesn't feel authentic for me to love it yet. But it teaches us that we are capable to be present with the things in a world where our attention is constantly harvested. To be deeply present with our stuff is revolutionary. And sometimes that presence can be very overwhelming, right? When I'm sitting with the body, I'm breathing into that pain that I've been carrying in my hip or shoulder, that anxiety that's like constantly sparkling and alive and like, what's going on? Why am I always feeling like this? Oh, I can't deal with it now. I have to focus. I have to send this paper in or show up to this meeting. Um, so we're developing the energetic resource and bandwidth to sit with the things that are constantly cycling through us in a way that lets them breathe and not having to fix it or do anything with it. And then gradually we develop our resource so we're not overwhelmed. And so we can drop into that witness, breathe with it, and it starts to dissolve its charge. Um, and also behind that, to eventually, maybe in the restorative space class or later on, when maybe we're doing something else and that sort of like mind is running in the background, like shampooing or washing the dishes, or walking, right? I tend to um, find these sort of like inspirations drop in when I'm in these rhythms where it's predictable. Later on, then the answer comes, or the truth, which we're not always ready to, um, admit or accept. So it's more than the technical postures, it's an internal alignment with the subtle truth of our spirit. It's the poetry in the silence. We can start to hear or feel. There's tension in stillness. It's very much that, and like acknowledging it. And it's an invitation into it all. Okay, we're not just gonna like ignore it or numb it out. We're gonna go inside. Let's sit in the arena of this thing and breathe. And slowly like drop deeper into that one thing or rise higher over the whole thing, depending on the day, depending on the need. So we're honing a certain strength. It's a very different strength from the chaturanga strength, from the, oh, I'm pushing through and there's a hot infrared light burning on my head. That's a strength. And this is the strength of softness, like being able to soften in safety and allow ourselves to break down if that's what the moment calls for, or allow ourselves to receive and have a very um, vivid, embodied experience of receiving. Oftentimes in a class, I will just have us envision, like, what do I really want? What do I want? And how does it feel to receive that? I think we walk around with a lot of resentment sometimes that we're not getting what we want, but we haven't given ourselves the opportunity to experience what it is that we want in a way that's at home first. So again, strength of softening, of receiving, because when we soften, this is a very feminine thing. And if you're working with developing or strengthening, the feminine energy, it's very much not about strength, but it is sometimes about sitting back and avoiding the impulse to have to do everything for everyone. And, you know, nurturing and caring for others, the quote feminine quality, requires a lot of energy and a lot of doing. And sometimes it's just us, masculine, feminine, whoever, male, female, sitting back and letting something kind of like be held by us. And when we can do that for ourselves first, it becomes so powerful for that magnetic energy that we're developing, that coherence with our spirit soul, and that spirit soul that's connected to source and that can draw down from source whatever it is we need. First on an energy level and then, manifesting. So Strength as softness, faith as knowing. Restorative yoga gives me the space to let go of everything and put it in the hands of God, quite simply. If you don't believe in God, whatever it is, you're just taking your hands off the wheel for a second and saying, hey, I know that this problem's going to get worked out and it's not all up to me. And actually, I don't know that how this problem's going to get worked out. Help. I can't do it all. Trusting the process without the crutch of some outside thing that I need to get to make the thing happen, without consuming, without distracting myself and hoping that thing gets resolved. It's a very conscious space of not doing, intentional non-doing, so that I can get my energy right for the eventual doing. Of course, we are doing a lot. There's a lot that's happening, but um, it's not a space of like speed and movement. It's a space of slowing and softening so we can be internally fulfilled by pulling back the curtain, by peeling off those layers of paint, by gently buffing the pain in my body that I've been carrying with loving breath. So whatever is unnecessary can slowly fall away, not in a way of like I'm losing, but in a way of I'm gaining pure contact with what's important and what's essential. So maybe take a moment and breathe into all of that. I tend to speak a lot and in metaphor, and just notice what landed with you. If you would like to pause here and journal about any and all of what came up for you or what I shared, things that stuck out, please do so. We're going to go into a little bit of the history of it, just so you know kind of where this all came from. So, BKS Iyengar is a very well-known yoga teacher. He's like the father of modern yoga. There's a few lineages that all came from one main teacher, in a sense, Krishnamacharya. And you got him teaching BKS Iyengar, Patabi Joyce. Patabi Joyce is the father of Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is very much the home root of power flow. BKS Iyengar is um, it's funny. I had a teacher once who was like, the yogis going into Iyengar and the yogis going into Ashtanga should have the signs on the doors flipped so they can go and get the other medicine. Because it tends to be like in Ayurveda, they say like increases like. And a lot of people who are like already fiery and type A and driven want to go for the fiery type A driven practice when what they really need is the slow, intentional, non-competitive, non-achievement based practice. And the ones that are very aligned and controlled and like, you know, slow need a little bit of fire, a little bit of like shaking up. So I like to imagine that restorative gives everyone whatever they need. Um, but Iyengar was very sick as a child. He grew up in India. He had malaria, tuberculosis. He was poorly Uh, you know, there's malnutrition, not very nourished. So he came to yoga as a healing practice. And he was his own science experiment. Um, so all of his like early childhood struggles confined him to the bed. So from his bed, he was able to like, all he was able to do was to watch the world around him. So he became extremely observant. And he he took the svadhyaya principle of the yamas, the self-study, and like from that one seed, all of these teachings bloomed. So his independent practice came from his own body, his own discipline. He would practice like 8 hours a day, every day. And just like his body was his lab. Um, and just constantly correcting and create, and like the whole basis of Iyengar is alignment, putting everything in its place in the body and holding it there, and then breathing into that space. And that alignment creating pathways that can open up. So he was a little bit malformed in the body. I think he may even have had scoliosis, if I'm not mistaken. And just by like, okay, I'm gonna see how this is supposed to be and hold it and create some sort of support system using blocks, straps, bolsters, chairs, um, walls with ropes, all these things that are objective tools to prop this thing up, right? If the leaning tower is like this, bringing some kind of scaffolding. So he used the scaffolding of props to align his body so that energy could begin to circulate again. And when the energy circulates, it brings on in its own healing intelligence. So when we have that support as and now that very much is translated into restorative yoga. When we have this support, it becomes very functional and anatomical. We're holding things up so we can drop into this kind of surrendered consciousness. If I don't have to hold everything in my life, I've got this and this and this and the kids and the work and the husband and or just like my own stuff I'm constantly dealing. When we don't have to juggle all those things and we have support and we're held, then energy frees up and we can sink into a deeper breath and a deeper release, surrender. And then underneath all that, I can start to see, all right, there's like all this RAM that's now freed up to like take stock. So if you've done a yoga training, which you have, you've talked about the koshas, the 5 sheaths of the body. And the physical body is the most gross and external layer or sheath of our consciousness. So when the physical body is burdened subtly or very much by like an injury or a nervous system overstimulation or, you know, difficulty with deep sleep, then we can't access the more subtle layers of the pranamaya kosha, the energy body, the manomaya kosha, what's the mind doing, the vijnanamaya kosha, the wisdom, like the deeper spiritual truth, and that like speaking through our body. And then, of course, anandamaya kosha, which is like the radiance and the bliss of the soul. Yogis say that the essence, our essence, every single one of us, the essence of the soul is Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means truth, but it's also that which is unchanging, that which is eternal. The soul is eternal. Chit is the consciousness, the chitta. It is knowing, right? When we like really drop in, it's like, I already know the answer. Being able to trust, have a relationship with that. And Ananda, the bliss, joy of just like, wow, creation is miraculous. My body is miraculous. My life, all the blessings I have. Wow. And really being able to just like, not in a performative way, but from this like inner smile. You may have heard that from like the Buddhist teachings, the inner smile. So what does it mean to like actually walk with that and like bring our consciousness, oh, I'm blissful. That is a reality I can choose to see. Everything around us would tell us otherwise. And yes, of course, the material reality is incredibly harsh and destructive and tragic. But beneath that, the changing ephemera of material world, what is unchanging? So the physical structure needs to be clear, open, unobstructed, so we can perceive and experience all those things. And of course, even if it's not, you can walk around with that inner smile, even if you got pain in your back. That's practice. Not to bypass it, of course, but to hold both with grace. And then the precision, I love to use straps in restorative yoga to hold the body in a certain alignment. So oftentimes we'll strap the upper thighs kind of just above the knee so that the thigh bones and the sacrum, right? When you lay down, your feet fall open. That's an external rotation of the hips. That puts a little bit of pressure on the sacrum. If that internal rotation is happening and now the sacrum's flat, it's even. The thigh bones are in line with the hip socket and down through the leg. Now the energy can stay flowing as I'm resting on my back. And so when that happens, that kind of precision, we go deeper. We can like soften and breathe in the energy, and it's so subtle and it's just happening like without our even awareness. But that presence that can be in the body because this part's communicating with that part in a very efficient way. I just always imagine like highways, and I keep doing this with my hands because it's like a straight shot, right? There's no traffic, there's no accident with a bottleneck happening, which injuries are accidents, right? These bottlenecks in the body. And the body's plural too, because our subtle body remembers it. And it's funny, like the phantom injury, like, oh yeah, your tissue is healed, but you're still kind of like, ooh, flinching on that side. And that's the subtle body that's still holding on to that memory. So in something like restorative, we're starting again to like the old paint. We're peeling back those layers of like the past, essentially, is what it is. We're carrying so much baggage of the past, maybe not even this life. It could even be like past lives. And now we have the tools and the space and the time to finally kind of like see, clear, breathe, refresh, release, put on the new clear coat of paint or the whatever clear coat of oil so that it shines up again. So it's very much a meditation, a practice of meditation that is embodied, and it's anything can be that dance, power flow, but we're trying to err on the side of rest and um, yeah, sort of like gentleness. So when we align and we're supported, there's a tuning that's happening. We are still working on creating opening, right? Just like it feels so good to do reverse warrior, peaceful warrior in a class. There's a big opening that's happening, but now it's like, okay, maybe it's not as big and as fast, but I'm held here and I can sink into it. And now that space can really take root and become um, deeply present in the body. So, certain support will invite a certain heightening of energy. So, when we're supported um, to be inwards, forward, we're inviting an inquiry, an internal connection. When we can establish that internal connection and that sort of safety, because we're, kind of collapsing in on ourselves, maybe not collapsing, but we're kind of honing in. We're safe, right? My back is the protection. My vitals are supported and protected. Anxiety is dealt with, right? So forward folds help with anxiety. Then we're going into back bends. I'm in a heart opener. I feel safe enough to go into that now, right? Because I've established some safety with a forward fold or a child's pose where I've really grounded. And now I can open up a little more. And as I open up, I feel that connection. And as I feel a connection, I know that I'm part of something and that someone values me and that I value them, right? That connection that we're made for. And now my depression's not as flagrant. it's it's softened too. And I'm able to like connect that heart is actually wanted and seen and loved itself. When we put our legs up, when we're inverting, we're flipping things around a little bit. We're putting the body into a state where, okay, you don't have to work as hard to do the same thing you're constantly doing, which is circulating hormones, blood, um, filtering out impurities, lymph, and we're supported to do that. And it's slow and it's easeful. The heart isn't working as hard. Then our immune system starts to function a little better. Then our endocrine system has support. So, our stress hormones aren't really working into the equation right now. So I have the bandwidth. I'm talking on behalf of the endocrine system. I have the bandwidth to now, clean up this spill here because, you know, she ate too much of this last week, which, we're always recalibrating. And we're giving the body the opportunity to recalibrate in a way that uses um, the right energy for the right thing that's needed instead of constantly cleaning up this other thing that's happening, right? We're just kind of shutting down the unnecessary functions and noise in the system. And that slowly over time allows all the other things that are actually um, essential to get done. So we can really address these deeper energetic needs, burnout, grief. Um, if you're on your cycle, this is an amazing practice as a woman to stay embodied and connected in a way that's not going to steal energy that your body needs to just do its little detox that it does every month. And now you just have a little more space, a little more emotional bandwidth too. So when we're holding things for a long time, 5 to 10 minutes minimum, It's a lot of time. Time is the most magical element in our world, I would say. Water, earth, air, fire, ether, amazing. The element of time impacts how all of it works. And when we and well, this is what I love about pranayama is it gives me a full appreciation of a minute as a measure of time. Like, oh, I know what a minute feels like in my body because I'm like just with this in and out breath. And I can actually stretch my breath out and expand into time through my body. So, this element of long holds allow the nervous system to unwind while your body is like safe and held. And in that energetic channeling that is clear and um, yeah, allowing communication to happen. It's like having a really long talk, when you haven't talked to your best friend and you're catching up and you're like, wow, actually, I feel so refreshed after that. Or with a partner, right? If you've been like avoiding all these things, like I just need to connect. Can we like have a date? It's a date with yourself. Connect all those parts of your body, and now they're communicating and they're talking, and they're exchanging, and it's like, okay, we got this now. We're good. So always supporting areas of common tension, hips, chest, shoulders, neck, head. And sometimes me supporting the neck, it doesn't mean I'm putting something directly on the neck. It means I'm supporting the areas that the neck hold up. So now my head is held up. Oh, I don't have to do the work. My neck is like, cool, you got it. Bolster, block, blanket. So allowing those support areas to actually mitigate the bridge in between. So always like kind of seeing that as like support, support. What's the bridge? How is that bridge area now able to open, to be breathed into, to consciously be connected with? So much of restorative yoga is the drawing of awareness of your mind to that place in your body, using the breath as like a little metronome to create the rhythm of like contact with that part. So it's a very subtle meditational thing where I'm healing not because necessarily I'm like stretching so perfectly, but because I'm able to breathe into connection with that place through the mind. And the mind is such a powerful healer, and that cannot be overstated. Or, we should have that tattooed on our bodies or on the mirror in the morning. My mind is the most powerful healer. And just like what I'm repeating, like sending loving energy through the intention, through the mind, through your awareness. You may be laying there eyes closed, but in my mind, I'm dropping down into my belly or wherever my body needs that love and that contact. So, that neurological safety through the props is what gives our parasympathetic activation. It allows the body to wind down. I'm safe. I'm held. That support can let me now go into those states of cleanup that are um, restful. And the mind, you know, it might only find stillness at the very last 10 minutes of class. And that's okay because we've chipped through some layers. And then what would happen if you did restorative again 2 days later and made it like a very regular thing? It's that little drop of water that's slowly eroding, right? The rock. So I like to see the compass as a powerful tool for helping structure a class. So there's four directions: forward, and when we go forward, we're actually going inward. So forward folds, and just like, and experimenting, there's no wrong way of doing this. You may have done this in the workshop, but how can I support a forward internal bending in a way that my back isn't like holding on, gripping? So, first point of the compass, forward, inward. And then you've got its opposite, backward. So when I go backward, I'm actually going outward, my body, my frontal plane. And we can use the sort of frontal plane as the determining factor of the direction. So when my front or I'm going backwards, then my frontal plane is going outwards. And then upward and downward. That's the other axis. So my legs are going upward, the energy is going downward and grounding. And then downward and contact with the ground is the fourth direction. So I put a part of my body up, the energy goes down. I get my whole body down. And then what I'm feeling there is the energy of the earth coming up. So the polarities within these four directions, there's always the other one somewhere. So the full support of just like contact with the ground in as many points as I can have. The Shavasana, but then like really supported maybe in the backs of the knees, these like places where it'd be nice to have softness. So softness wherever there's points of contact. I always invite students to lay a blanket down on the mat so you just have that general softness that you're working with, and then propping upwards more from there. So always thinking of the compass, the four directions: forward, backward, upward, and downward. And how the body parts can move in those four directions. I can have my arms upward. I've done this before where we just kind of drape the arms. Yeah, it's not like all the way up, but there's an upward movement, and how that helps to cultivate prana from the heart through the heart meridians into the aura, into the electromagnetic field. And of course, you're opening the side body. So that creates more space for breath, for more prana. So whenever you're structuring a class, you can think of these four directions and intuitively what feels good to start with in a way that's going to ground. So the structure is very much arrival into the body, into a place of non-effort, non-stress, non-achievement, non-proving, non-hiding. That's sort of like the foundation. Arrival, deepening that safety into the body. So I love to arrive with pranayama, with breath, with a gentle intuition, meditation, invitation into like intention, or into just being. Sometimes setting an intention is like, again, another like cognitive thing. So just observing, being, arriving, and then the breath helps with that. And then carrying the breath throughout, right? Just giving little cues of deeper breathing. But silence is everything in this class, in this kind of practice. Silence is so dynamic because they're here to let their inner stuff be heard and breathe. So, in a way, your speaking is not done through words, but through your own nervous system regulation that you're doing as you're holding space for the class. Important as a teacher. You don't have to talk a lot. You can just hold that field of compassionate awareness and deep breathing and in your own body feeling that. And that's going to be felt so powerfully. And then there's ways of like engaging the elements which correlate to the senses. So breath correlates to this, the sense of kinesthetic feel, and of course the element of air. And then smells, you can bring Palo Santo or sage, incense, some essential oils, not overdoing it. I love to bring Palo Santo and just like as someone enters the studio, already their mind is like, oh, that's so nice. It's already starting that sort of like softening process of like, oh, I'm going into a safe space. I'm going into a healing space. A nice way to connect with the whole group in the space in the studio is putting a drop of essential oil into everyone's hands, whoever wants it, and just like connecting as you do that, like you are serving someone one on one, and that is like a quick, easy way to do it. And that also contributes to someone softening, like, oh, I'm receiving. If people are, I've had, what do we want to focus on today? Someone say feet. So it's like, okay, let's do some self touch and just working with these acupressure points in the feet. I'm happy to send a little chart of them if you want to just study them and practice on yourself. So, touch the earth element, the body. Before COVID, when I taught in New York, a big part of Shavasana was going around giving adjustments under the head, like gently lifting someone's head and hands, and gently lengthening or massaging the shoulders. That's a really powerful way of connecting and giving people a deeply restorative experience. Of course, consent, you know, something that you'll want to clarify if you want to do that. And sight, covering your eyes. I always have people take a towel and cover the eyes, and the towel, if you fold it a certain way, you can pull it around, cover the ears. You can also use a blanket to do that. So that softens the constant ocular engagement that we're doing. And the eyes are such a powerful um, gateway into the vagus nerve. So that the healing and the internal closure of the eyes while we're still awake and conscious. I love rubbing the hands, bringing that warmth into the eyes. It softens everything back into the brain behind the eyes. Really powerful. So covering the eyes, making sure there's like a sense of softness into the ears and the sight. So light and sound are very low, very quiet and dark. Staying warm, right? So covering up if the heat needs to be on. And then sound. Oftentimes I'll play, healing Tibetan bowls or bring the gong, or it's just like quiet or the ocean. So healing sounds, which I'm sure you are all very aware of. So I'm not going to take up much more of your time. I would love to share the practice with you if you are wanting a one-on-one or come to class. Um, thank you for your time and for your understanding. Let's close with a quick grounding here. Let's take your hands and create some warmth As your hands rub, we'll take 3 big breaths. In your mind's eye, envision the sun. Okay, inhale. Nice warm sun. Exhale. Warmth through the body. Again, big breath. Sun. Exhale. Ease and warmth. One more. And then place your hands anywhere at all, anywhere on the body that's been talking to you, wanting to feel contact, grounding, feeling that space between the hands and the physical body, and that exchange of energy, of warmth, of touch, conscious awareness through the touch, maybe sending love to those parts or just seeing them. You can move the hands to a new place. Deep, deep breath. Long breath out. Inhale, belly, lungs, chest expand gently. When you feel ready to, joining the palms at the heart. Thank you to all the teachers who have paved the way. Thank you to our bodies who are deeply wise, and to your spirit, which is your best friend, is you. May we commune and have a rich relationship with all parts of ourselves in the spirit of loving acceptance and curiosity. Om Tat Sat. Namaste. Have a wonderful day.